Hi, Tony Sells here. Welcome to The Line. You know, we've got a great show. It's not every day we get to talk to other people that are in the space that we're doing, that get to compare notes and talk about how marketing and sales and automation is changing. And so I've got Doyle Slayton on the show with Zoombi. They're a content marketing firm that's doing lead gen. Hey, how did you come up with this company? How did you come up with this play? When did you see the need?
You bet, Tony. Thanks for having us on. I mean, I think the biggest thing for us was that I come from a sales background, software sales, education sales, and the like. And what I realized that over the years, the game has changed. And what I mean by that is, by nature, I'm a hunter, a sales hunter. So I believe in outbound. I believe in prospecting and cold calling and finding prospects by picking up the phone, which is uncommon out there, especially today.
Oh my God, are you kidding me?
What I realized is that, you know, at one point 10, 15 years ago, I might be able to make 15 to 25 calls and get an appointment. Right. So if I make 60, 70 calls a day, I'm doing well. I'm exceeding quota, I'm blowing out my numbers. But the game has changed in the sense that now sales reps, especially for smaller no-name firms, they have to make 100 and 200 prospecting attempts just to get one appointment. Right. And everybody has a breaking point. Everybody has a threshold as to how many prospecting attempts they might be able to put out. Mine was very high. So what I'm telling you, there's a problem. There's a problem. Well, okay. The burnout rate was very high for people. The turnover rate was very high and very costly for companies. So the problem that I wanted to solve was say, listen, we've got to be able to improve the lists that people are calling on. We've got to position our smaller business owners who don't have the big brand name out there to have a more well brand known name, so that when we call people, they already know who we are. Right. And that's going to improve the attempts that your sales reps are making on prospects. Get the ROE, which I call the return on effort, to be better for the sales reps, and now they can get a better result. So we want to supplement lead flow. We want to improve the list building that we have for them. We want to get their name marketable and recognizable out in the market, position you as an industry expert, and now all of a sudden you get more success with your outbound, and you strengthen your outbound tactics with inbound. So that's really what Zoombi is all about and wanted to try to accomplish in the market.
So let me give you some data just to validate what you said. So when we were building out the value play for StringCan, we found that the best salespeople, Doyle, optimized are making a top 6 good lead qual touches an hour. Okay. So if you do the math on that in software, let's say that, you know, the average sales guy is $84,360 a year. But when you kick it into technology or software sales, you're probably closest to 100, right? And then when you fully load that guy at $150, you know, $160, you're talking about $7 to $8 an initial touch, a lead qual touch for that sales guy. And then you got a wash rate where only 50% of them are even breaking even. So to do what you're talking about, to create value so that touch is that much more qualified, especially when they have 4 or 5 mediums that didn't exist 10 years ago, right? When you and I started selling, there was no Instagram, there was no Twitter, there was none of this crap, right? So the noise that's in the marketing field, the noise that's in the marketplace today is so crazy that companies today fundamentally have to stop selling the way they used to, market the way they used to, and it's organizations like yours and mine that are really helping them illuminate to this. Would you agree?
Totally agree. You know, you talk about what we didn't have back then. I mean, when we started selling, cell phones were just coming into the market, right? Yeah. So now we've got all these other tools and resources, and people talk about how prospects have an advantage because they have access to so much research and information. I mean, salespeople have an advantage because they have the same type of access and information to prospective clients as well. The challenge is getting business owners and folks that have an old school mentality. Like I would say I have an old school mentality because I still believe in outbound. Right. But my new school mentality is to combine that old school outbound with the new technologies and platforms and channels that are out there for us.
Right. We call that warm bound, by the way, combining outbound and inbound together, right? I mean, Google is kind of screwed up the way we buy in some ways. And I was telling somebody this as I was selling in the Valley. And I was telling them, that Google's got everybody conditioned that pay-per-click is the way that's going to solve everything, right? But the problem is that we're seeing lead costs higher than we've ever seen before. I mean, I've quoted companies with lead costs of $2,700 a lead. I mean, that is ridiculous. That's crazy. And I'm sure you're running the same thing where they don't have any clue on how to get that, from pay-per-click into their sales team. I mean, what is the most egregious aberration you've seen going right now in the marketing sales field?
Well, I think the thing that frustrates me the most is, number one, when other agencies or marketers, social media experts want to talk about how inbound is the only way to go and that the phone is dead. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing that really just makes me cringe, mm-hmm. Okay? The second thing that makes me cringe is when people talk about how other people don't want to be sold, sales is all about relationships, and that type of language. Now, there's some truth to a lot of those comments, mm-hmm. but I think most of the time they're misunderstood mm-hmm. by people who don't want to prospect and right. don't want to hunt for new business, right. and that's why people are not hitting their goals. Mm-hmm. When it comes to the pay-per-click advertising and the rising cost per lead, what I also tell a new client that came on board, they wanted to lead with pay-per-click advertising, and I said, listen, we're starting you from scratch. They're a startup. And I said, I don't think I'd put my money there. Mm-hmm. In fact, I didn't say I don't think. I said I wouldn't put my money there. Mm-hmm. What I would do is build digital assets. Let's build your presence, especially on LinkedIn. That's where your clients are, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. Second, it's Twitter mm-hmm. For this particular prospect. Everybody's going to have different spaces where they play. Our clients mainly don't play on Facebook very much. But to me, building digital assets that continue to pay off over time mm-hmm. because you have a following is a better move than pay-per-click long term.
Right. Well, especially if you get them to the site and there's nothing for them to do. I mean, it's like you're betting on 0.5% and you're spending, $5 to $6 to get them to the site. It's just really, people don't really understand the math. And I think what we have found, and this is, we'll see if you agree with, we're launching a new campaign called Marketing versus Sales. And it's this entire attitude that there are two departments that don't work together to try to coordinate and create revenue, right? I mean, that's completely ridiculous, right? That there's an MQL and an SQL. Like, that just is, like, why wouldn't we all get on the same jargon and talk about how we're going to grow the business? But that whole shift in mindset, it's really up to, it's up to guys like you and me that are outside the firm looking in order to change that culture. Don't you agree? I mean, they can't do it internally if they're too big in size.
I think that's the biggest thing that people struggle with is it starts with egos, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you've got a big ego in sales, you got a big ego in marketing, and each one wants to run the show. Right? Mm-hmm. One of the things that we've created as our tagline is sales-driven marketing. Mm-hmm. And the reason we call it that is, to me, sales drives the business. If you don't have sales, mm-hmm. you don't have a business. Mm-hmm. So in my personal opinion, as a marketing agency owner, mm-hmm. it's the sales strategy that's going to help drive the marketing strategy that supports sales through the customer life cycle. Mm-hmm. So I think that's where really the relationships that we build with our clients start with the idea that, listen, let's talk about what the selling strategy is going to be. What's the sales process? Mm-hmm. What's the sales cycle and the stages that your customer goes through, and let's create marketing campaigns and strategies that are going to support that process. Mm-hmm. That way, you don't have a salesperson who's sending out an email to a prospect that they've been hunting down for the last 6 months, and that same morning, without the salesperson knowledge, the marketing team blasts out an email mm-hmm. to everybody in the database about a completely different topic.
Yeah.
And now the prospect is getting two different emails, one from the sales prospect and one from marketing,
Yep.
and they have no correlation to one another. It doesn't make sense.
It's crazy the way it's been done, and it's been done that way because the way communications has changed over the last 30 years. We haven't evolved and changed the way we're running those organizations, right? We still have them on separate teams. We're still calling them with different titles, and we're still playing with different scoreboards. And I think that's why organizations need to embrace guys like you, guys like us, that are able to help transform that conversation, get everybody on the same page, and then to your point, help create assets and tools and strategies that are going to actually help guys move product, women move product, so they can grow the business. I mean, ultimately, that's why we're all here, right?
Exactly.
Thanks so much for being on the show, buddy. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it. It's always great to align and talk with people that are like-minded.
Yeah. I mean, I think what you're doing is great. I appreciate the opportunity we can maybe work together. Thanks so much.